The idea of the smell of campfire smoke and the glittering stars in the clear desert sky was what drove us to that ill-fated trip. We were four friends: me, Samer, Mazen, the brave and reckless one, Khaled, the rational skeptic, and Yasser, the cheerful guy whose smile never faded. We decided to escape the noise of the city and spend the weekend on a camping trip deep in the desert, in an area Mazen's great-grandfather used to tell us strange stories about. Stories we always assumed were made up. "There are places in the desert we should never set foot in," his grandfather would say in his trembling voice. "A parallel world to ours, inhabited by those we cannot see." We'd laugh at his words, thinking they were old folks' tales. But Mazen, with his usual enthusiasm, insisted we camp in a specific area his grandfather mentioned, a place called the Valley of Spirits. After hours of driving on rough roads, leaving behind the last signs of civilization, we reached the place at sunset. The view was breathtaking: endless golden dunes, scattered black rocks shaped by the wind into odd forms, and a silence broken only by the wind. We set up 2 tents, lit a fire, and began cooking while we chatted and laughed. But as darkness settled, the cheerful mood slowly shifted into something else. The gentle wind turned into a mournful howl circling the tents, as if whispering unclear names. I was the first to notice shadows moving just beyond the firelight. Shadows with no obvious source. "Did you guys see that shadow?" I asked, trying to hide my fear. Mazen laughed recklessly. "It's just light and shadow tricks. Relax, Summer." But Khaled looked seriously in the direction I pointed. "Something's off. I haven't seen a single bird or even an insect." Yasser tried to lighten the mood. "Come on, it's all nonsense. Just come play Uno with me." But the atmosphere had already grown heavy, and at midnight the first strange incident happened. We heard heavy footsteps circling the camp, footsteps that sounded like they belonged to someone enormous. Yet when Mazen grabbed the flashlight and jumped up to investigate, there was no one. Only odd tracks, huge and unclear, disappearing suddenly in the sand. "Wind marks," Khaled said, trying to sound logical, but his voice trembled. An hour later, we heard another sound. This time, a child crying in the darkness. A sad, broken, bone-chilling cry. Our hair stood on end. Even Mazen no longer looked brave. "That's impossible. Who brings a kid to the middle of the desert?" Yasser whispered, holding his head in his hands. I grabbed my phone to call for help. No network, no signal. And I had checked before leaving that the area had coverage. Everyone tried. All phones were dead. Even Yasser's electronic watch stopped working. "Something here is disrupting electronics," Khaled said seriously. "We need to leave, now." We collected our things with shaking hands, trying not to show how terrified we really were. But when we tried to start the car, the engine wouldn't respond. Mazen tried once, twice, 10 times. Nothing. The battery was full, but it was as if something was preventing the car from working. "There's no choice. We have to stay till morning," Mazen said in a hoarse voice. We returned to the fire, now fading, and sat close together, trying not to break down. Then the sounds began to rise around us. Interwoven whispers, incomprehensible speech, muffled laughter, and sobbing, as if dozens of unseen beings were surrounding us. Then we saw them. In the distance, small, faint lights swayed in the darkness. Not car lights or flashlights, strange glowing orbs drifting randomly. Then they began forming human shapes, transparent figures moving in a slow, terrifying dance. We were frozen, unable to speak. Suddenly everything stopped. The wind went silent. The quiet was more terrifying than the noises. Then, from the darkness, a tall, shadowy figure appeared. Taller than any human, moving with unnatural fluidity, gliding over the sand. It stopped only a few meters away, and we felt a wave of cold pierce our bones. A voice echoed inside our heads, not in our ears, but our minds. A harsh voice speaking an ancient, unintelligible language, yet we instinctively understood its meaning. "This is our place. Why do you trespass on our land?" Mazen, holding a small emergency knife, gripped it tightly, but his hand trembled violently. "We mean no harm. We're just travelers," he shouted, forcing courage into his voice. But the being did not reply. Instead, we felt a crushing pressure inside our skulls, as if our heads were about to burst. We heard screams inside our minds and saw horrifying images. People lost in the desert, skeletal remains, creatures beyond description, as if it was pouring centuries of terror into our brains. Yasser began crying hysterically, and Khalid recited Quranic verses in a shaking voice, while I was paralyzed, unable to move. Mazen fainted from the shock. Then suddenly everything stopped. The pressure vanished and the dark figure disappeared. Dawn began to rise, a gray glow on the horizon. We were exhausted, mentally shattered, but alive. With the first ray of sunlight, Mazen tried the car again. This time, the engine roared to life instantly. We didn't wait a second. We packed the tents at record speed and ran to the car. As we loaded our gear, I noticed something that froze my blood. On the sand, carved with eerie precision, was a huge circle filled with strange symbols and words in Arabic, ancient and unfamiliar, surrounding our entire camp. We had spent the whole night inside a circle meant for the jinn. Mazen sped away like a madman. No one spoke on the way back. The nightmare didn't end with our escape. Since that day, strange things have followed us. We wake at night to see shadows in the corners of our rooms, electronics in our homes act oddly, and whispers echo when we're alone. Khalid became reclusive, barely leaving his house. Yasser is no longer cheerful. He's anxious all the time. Mazen doesn't speak of bravery or adventures anymore. As for me, I'm writing this now as a warning. The desert is not what you think. There are other worlds out there, inhabitants we do not want to meet. Sometimes I wonder, did we really escape the Valley of Spirits that night? Or did part of that place come back with us? On some nights, when I wake and see a tall shadow in the corner of my room, I know the answer is not what I wish it were. The trip ended, but the nightmare still continues.